You know the clones for their charge, the synced footsteps, the thunder of rifles in a steel corridor, but the real secret of the Grand Army of the Republic sits in the quiet between alarms. Tonight we open the barracks door and step into the ordinary hours that make the legends possible. What do the clones actually do when they're not fighting? And why did those hours matter much more than anyone outside the ranks ever realized? That answer starts with Rain and ends with truth that most people will never ever accept. Let's start on Kamino. The oceans hit the platforms like a metronome and the cadet blocks breathe in the same rhythm. Training never truly stops. Even off the range, clones build skills the way musicians keep time. They run mental drills, they rehearse hand signals in the dark, they recite room clearing steps until the muscle memory is smoother than speech. The culture begins in those long white halls where squads sleep in the same rooms that they study in, and where a single mistake in a simulation becomes a lesson that a whole squad carries forward. Failure is a tool, not a sentence, and the brothers who learn to use it become the ones who lead when the doors finally slide open to the real world. A squad off duty starts with maintenance. They field strip a DC-15 until each part sits in a line like a promise. Carbon scoring becomes a map of choices that they made that day. A careful clean turns into a quiet after-action review. Armor gets the same treatment. It's more than ceramic and plastoid, it's identity. Personalization became the open truth as the war went on. You can read a history in paint. The 501st Blue speaks for itself. Late in the war, when Ahsoka Tano returned to lead a detachment into the siege of Mandalore, the 332nd Company painted their helmets to echo her facial markings. That wasn't fashion, that was a morale and loyalty choice. A reminder of why they were there at all. Now, moving on to food, we have the mess halls. This is where commanders lead their unit without even being in battle. Quartermasters become tacticians with boxes and data pads. They trade with the other units, and they generally have a great time. If a table goes quiet, you know something's happened, but if a table starts getting loud again, you know something's been fixed. You can't bluff in a mess hall, everyone knows that. The clones know it, the officers know it, everybody knows it. Morale is inventory you can taste. Clones have downtime on Coruscant and the capital gives them a ritual. When they are cut loose, they find a familiar neon sign at a cantina called 79's. This bar became a pressure valve for men who never had a childhood. Off duty there, a helmet goes on the table and laughter arrives like a relief landing. Brothers celebrate, commiserate, and swap stories in a place that understands the uniform. The city never sleeps, but for a few hours, a squad can. They walk back to their barracks with the music still in their heads, and the next day feels lighter. Medical checks are also in their routine. The medbay is where bravery meets biology. Clones move through scanners and the Kaminoan science that built them gets inspected line by line. In the war's darkest undercurrent, a trooper named Top malfunctioned and set off an investigation that pulled ARC Trooper 5s into the laboratories and interrogation rooms of Kamino. Off the battlefield, 5s worked with a droid named AZ and uncovered the truth about inhibited ships. Those scenes are not firefights, yet they are some of the most important hours of the entire conflict. Quiet tables, quiet scans, and a brave soldier trying to protect his brothers from a secret planted inside their heads. Back on duty, but away from the front line, clones rotate into the Coruscant Guard. They police the Senate District, guard the Judiciary Central Detention Center, and ride escort on diplomatic runs, serving as military police while the war rages on above in hyperspace routes. Shock troopers learn to hold a line without firing a shot because the point is stability, not spectacle. They train shoulder to shoulder with Coruscant security. They read crowds, they walk senators to their speeders, they break up fights with restraint because the uniform stands for the Republic first and victory second. This is not a glamorous posting, but it's the one that explains how democracy survives a war at home. If only they knew. Training is not only live fire though, it's theory, navigation, shipboarding, choreography, explosive ordnance safety that keeps a hangar deck from becoming a crater. In the cadet blocks on Kamino, clones learn under Shaak Ti, under Brick and LLS, and they learn that teamwork is not a poster slogan. Domino Squad becomes a case study for this. The lesson repeats on every ship and every base. You rise together, or you fall together. Off hours become laboratories for trust, squads run silent drills when the lights go out, they map the ship, they practice breaches until the 6-man stack moves like one mind, one single hive mind. A good unit rehearses so well that a bad day just becomes like nothing, routine. Life still happens in the gaps though. There are games that never end, bets that turn into running jokes, and art that blooms on bulkheads when no lieutenant is watching. A tiny carved helmet sits on a sill, a cartoon appears by the doorway, and somehow nobody erases it because everybody needs a reminder that people live here. These aren't just mindless clones, these are actual people with individual lives. Clones also tell stories about Geonosis or Umbara and shape terror into wisdom you can actually use. A sergeant puts a hand on a private's shoulder, and a hard conversation ends with respect intact. None of this looks like a battle, yet all of it builds the reflex to hold the line when the door explodes inward. Paperwork is not glamorous, but it is still sacred. After action notes become tomorrow's tactics, a clear sentence can save a life 3 hyperlanes away. In the right units, there is a hot wash where rank pauses for 10 minutes and the truth speaks without fear. Say what happened, say what you did, say what you will do next time. The clones don't have long childhoods. They build adulthood with accountability and repetition. Mentorship keeps the engine from grinding up the new. Veterans explain the difference between courage and speed. An ARC trooper shows rookies how to find exits before they enter a building. A platoon leader teaches a trick for moving between decks through maintenance crawlways without catching a pointless extra duty from a board officer. The small lessons really matter, and a lot of the downtime of clones is just taking on lessons and really internalizing it to learn what's going to happen the day that they finally hit the battlefield. Now, being off the front lines does not mean off the mission. Engineers patch shields on outposts of the Republic that they barely even remember exist. Techs tune sensors. Slicers scrub comms relays and tighten encryption patterns to keep entire fleets hidden until it's time to strike. In the hangars, crews learn a starship the way that medics learn a pulse. They know when a drive is tired from the sound it makes 10 seconds after a shutdown. They keep gunships fueled, patched and loaded so that urgency never has to wait for a wrench. This is how a war stays on time and on rhythm. Chaplains and counselors also exist. They can be organic or droid, and they offer more than sound bites. Faith shows up as a habit. Some troopers count the days, steps to the mess, seconds to sprint from rack to hangar. Others breathe in patterns a Jedi taught them. A few squads sing 3 notes before a drop, and nobody outside the squad knows what it means. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is fear harnessed by a ritual and pointed in the right direction. There is discipline when tempers flare. Brothers argue, of course. That's inevitable among people who share risk and oxygen. Good sergeants know how and when to let the storm pass and when to pull a man aside. Punishment is not theatre, it's perspective. Extra runs in the simulations, extra day with a watch crew, or an extra day in the hangar. Then it ends with a handshake because a unit only stays strong if consequences lead back into community. And then we have intelligence work. This looks like a humdrum on the surface, but it's actually pattern reading, and a trooper keeps notes on droid ambush timings against terrain. Another sketches separatist ship silhouettes until he can ID a profile at a glance. Comms specialists practice authentication until it's natural as a greeting. The artistry hides inside repetition. The clones treat it like an art because the price of getting sloppy is a brother's life. The relationship changes with Jedi when the clones get off the battlefield. Rank turns into a conversation, a general sits at a mess table and paints a symbol on a pauldron while discussing an assault rifle as if it were a puzzle. Ghost Company learns patience from Plo Koon, the 501st refines tactics with Skywalker, and learns that improvisation still needs a foundation. The 332nd paints their helmets for Ahsoka and builds a bridge of trust that changes how every order sounds. Obviously that came too late though. When soldiers and a single Jedi respect each other in the quiet, they move like a single idea when the doors blow open. Security posts teach a special kind of calm. Corridor guards learn to recognize footfalls before they see faces. Shuttle bay techs learn names, accents, and the difference between a pilot on edge and a saboteur who wants to look bored. The Coruscant Guard becomes fluent in politics simply by standing close to it. They do their jobs with a restraint that leaves a city functional long after a riot would have made it ungovernable. The work is patient and invisible. It also is decisive. And then we have Greef. Greef has its own rituals. Some units keep a private wall and a name goes up with a marker. Gloves trace the letters and then everyone goes back to work with the weight distributed across many soldiers. Memories surface at 79s in the barracks after lights out or on a transport when the bay goes quiet for a minute and nobody pretends not to notice. Loss is not ignored though, it's carried correctly and doesn't break the line. And this is the heart of a clone trooper. The secret is simple. Downtime is the strategy. The quiet before the war is the war. The Republic won battles long before blasters ignited because the Grand Army turned ordinary minutes into discipline, loyalty, training, and skill. When that alarm finally hit, an entire ship could rise at once like a single organism that poured into preparation into one more assault, one more defense, and one more rescue. This is how legends happen. The quiet built the storm, and every clone remembers the quiet even as they run towards the sound. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this little artistic version of what a clone does in their off time, let me know in the comments down below. Thanks so much, and if you made it this far, drop a thank Mr. Fives in the comments down below.